going on, Nissan Nation? From all things Nissan here in Middle Tennessee, in my office, to wherever you watch on YouTube and globally, I don't know. This is your Nissan Nation podcast update, and I'm your host, David Boyd. Today, Carlos Ghosn had his day. He had his day in front of the cameras, and I find it quite interesting. So, I posted the link on our Facebook page once again. You can follow along if you want to, and I'm using this because they did a nice play-by-play. So if you go to CNN's business page, you'll find this. If not, go to our Facebook page. I want to get into it. I want to clear a couple things up for people. Carlos Ghosn did a lot of good for Nissan, but he is not. Let's not be fooled. He is not the savior of Nissan. I know everybody, he gets all this credit for, oh, he saved Nissan. He saved Nissan. No, let's start with the fact that Renault helped Nissan out of a pinch, and then Renault after the fact brought in Carlos Ghosn because he was known as kind of the guy that could cut spending like crazy and change things. So let's initially give the Renault, who he did work for at the time, but he was not the guy in charge of all this. Let's give Renault the credit of saving Nissan in the 90s, not Carlos Ghosn. Once again, Carlos was brought in. He was known when he worked for Michelin, I believe. He was known for being able to going in a company and finding ways to cut costs and get output up, and which he did at Nissan. But the problem is, once he cut costs, he lowered quality of everything to get them back to profitability. And once they were profitable again, he never returned quality back there, and he started pushing for higher volumes. And link above, you can follow along with my ramblings on that if you'd like. If not, this isn't about that. This is CG's day. His day in front of the press. So let's get into it. And once again, I'm using a CNN article, a CNN business article that they did kind of a lapse, hit by hit of what old CG was saying. So first off, the interrogations lasted up to 8 hours, Ghosn said within the Japanese deal. I don't doubt that. As I've said before, the Japanese do not do things the way other countries do. When they bring a case to you, against you, they've already done their due diligence and they've made their case. Now, do they probably pressure you in trying to admit guilt? I'm sure they do. But do you think that doesn't happen to any low-level criminal in the States or wherever your country you're in? It probably does. So let's not act like this guy instantly was a victim here, which all this that we're about to go through, he says, I'm a victim. So Carlos Ghosn says that he was interrogated for up to 8 hours a day by Japanese authorities. He claims he was not allowed to have a lawyer present. This is Japan. They do, once again, I don't know the legal system over there, but I've talked to a few people that do know the legal system. Some of this is just how they operate. So the former Nissan executive was expected to criticize the Japanese judicial system, and so far that's holding true. So that was hit one. And this press conference lasted 3 hours. This is all the stuff that you're going to see. You may not side with me on it, and that's awesome. This is just my opinions on most of this, but the guy's ego is needs to be put in check a little bit. So the next hit, Ghosn, I'm not here to talk about my escape. Of course you're not, because I'm pretty sure your lawyers probably advised you don't talk about that because you're gonna implement people that you shouldn't, family members, wife, whoever. You're gonna implement them in on how you got out of the country. So yeah, we probably shouldn't in a press conference talk about that. So let's see. Carlos Ghosn said that he had looked forward to this moment while he was prevented from leaving Japan for more than a year after being arrested. I'm not here to talk about how I managed to leave Japan, although I can understand that you are interested. I'm here to talk about why I left. Okay. For the first time since this nightmare began, I can defend myself. Following his arrest, Ghosn said he did not expect a moment of freedom until leaving Japan. Now that I am able to speak with facts and data evidence, I hope that you will discover the truth, he said. Okay. We can go into this just slightly. Once again, Carlos was setting his own pay wage. So, and he doesn't want to really bring that up because that was Nissan's big deal of why they pushed on this and why they hired investigators to figure this out. Carlos's ego, and think of what you want about Bob Lutz. Bob Lutz has had a lot of dealings with him within Nissan, or within the corporate automotive industry, and Bob Lutz summed it up perfect. And Bob Lutz, who was not, he ran GM for quite a while, or was a vice president of GM for quite a while. I'm sure he has his own ego issues, but like he talked pretty extensively in an interview. I believe it was with, I want to say it was MSNBC did an interview with him, and he talks about how Carlos is like, his ego was like, just massive, and rightly so, probably because everything Carlos had done till this time has worked out or panned out pretty well. Carlos praises former colleague Greg Kelly. If you don't know, Greg Kelly was kind of his second in command guy that helped hide a lot of this stuff. The fact that Carlos had $80 million in compensation and all that. And like I was saying a minute ago, that $80 million, since Carlos was able to set his own pay scale, and in Japan, like they really, really frown on you. They have kind of there's a level that they like to keep their executives at. And Carlos thought because he was such a global, ego-driven leader, that he deserved more. So his way around of getting more money was he set it to when he retired that Nissan would owe him up to $80 million in compensation. So, which is, once again, part of why all this happened. So, Carlos Ghosn took a moment in his press conference Wednesday to praise fellow auto executive Greg Kelly, who was arrested at the same time he was and remains in Japan, where he faces the same charges. Well, praise your buddy that you're leaving in Japan. While my plight captured the headlines, and you cannot forget about Greg's ordeal. He's being punished precisely because he is honorable. I don't get that one. He said that Kelly was tricked into coming into Japan November of 2018 when he was arrested, even though he needed to have medical attention at home. The spin on these things, and you expected spin on this, but it's pretty interesting. Ghosn calls Kelly an honorable man, a husband, and a father, and who was brutally torn away from his work and his family on that November day. Greg remains a victim of a hostile Japanese justice system with no trial date in sight, he said. Once again, I'm not going to sit here and say this is how it works, but everything I know of the Japanese judicial system, that's how it works. This is the great part. Ghosn trashes Nissan and the Japanese legal system. Well, guess what? It's your day to shine, yeah, and we all expected that this was going to happen. But weren't you the head of Nissan? So now you're gonna trash Nissan, but at the same point, you're sort of trashing what you've done. And the legal system, once again, that's for another day and another legal expert. Carlos Ghosn has fired broadside against Nissan, Japanese legal system, and the country's prosecutors. I was presumed guilty before the eyes of the world and subject to a system whose only objective is to coerce confessions, secure guilty pleas without regards of the truth, he said. Like I've said in a couple videos, usually the Japanese prosecutors have a case it's open and shut. That's the way they operate before they arrest you. So, maybe. But guess what? Just because you're a world traveler doesn't mean where you broke the law. It's not up to the world to decide your fate. It's up to the country you broke the law in. So, I have come to learn that my imaginable ordeal over the last 14 months is the result of a handful of unscrupulous, vindictive individuals at Nissan, he said, while also placing blame on Tokyo prosecutors. Make it what you will of that, but I'm pretty sure he still broke the law. Let's see. Next headline. Ghosn thanks the Lebanese people. This is a funny one because they get rid of him out of this country. Carlos Ghosn says he thanks the Lebanese authorities and citizens for never losing faith in him. Why do you ever think the citizens of that country have faith in you? You're just a citizen. You're a citizen of 3 different countries, so let's not act like you're a hero there. They showed the world that for a small country, the Lebanese people have a big soul and a big heart. For more on Ghosn's reputation and status in Lebanese, read this, and it's just back to where they won't extradite him. But come to find out, they don't like people. It's a lot of this has to do with religious things, and I'm not a religious scholar once again, but I know that the Islamic people and the Israelis don't really get along. And guess what? They have a law in this country that if you deal with Israel, they can oust you. So that's something that not really talked a lot about, but that could kind of bite him on the back. Let's see. Next headline. Carlos Ghosn, I am innocent. Carlos Ghosn tells reporter allegations are untrue and I should have never been arrested in the first place. I am here to clear my name. Yet you fled the other country. Details of the case have been misreported. Carlos Ghosn says some of the details of I love this. Some of the details of his arrest were misreported. So he can't say all of them, but just some of them were. I have been told that the world was told I was arrested in an airplane. And he bullshits what he says, and they have the STI that marked out. I was arrested in the airport. What does that matter? Like that, I'm not sure that goes well. You're clear you're innocent because they lied that you were on the airplane. They can't arrest you till you touch ground. He says, I came down from the airplane. I was taken to a car. I arrived to the passport. I don't get that. To the passport and told there was a problem with my visa. They took me to a small room and that's where I found the prosecutors. I'm not sure why this is, and I'm going to scroll through a couple of these. This one right here is the one that got me, and I think it shows his ego a little bit. Ghosn says he was arrested because Nissan executives feared Renault. Now, granted, Renault has a pretty big stake in Nissan, and Nissan has about a 15% stake back into Renault, but I don't think they fear Renault as a whole. I think they feared what you were trying to do, and I'm sure some of it was backing of the board members of Renault of merging these companies, but I don't think they just fear Renault in general. Carlos Ghosn said that the arrest was engineered by executives at Nissan who were worried about problems at the Japanese automaker and fearful that it would fall under the control of the French automaker Renault. Okay, it's pretty factual that they were having lots of problems. Even while he was the head CEO of Nissan, they started struggling financially because they're building a less quality product. There was I forget where I read this earlier. I think it was somebody in a Nissan page, and I thought it was really brilliant that yes, you lower quality. He started lowering quality and getting volume back to get Nissan profitable. And so all those people initially who thought Nissan was a quality product kept buying the cars. But after 10, 15 years, when that quality, what you thought was a quality product is not holding up, it really starts to sour you on the brand. And I think that's some of the problem Nissan's having currently is people for 20 years have bought these cars under his leadership, and problems with the CV transmission or little things that Nissan not tried to cover up, but they just sort of ignored some radiator issues I know in the truck lines and stuff that they, which is pretty typical. Once again, in the automotive world, it's pretty typical that you don't want to acknowledge these until you just have to. But the guy in charge of all this, the guy that writing those big checks, you can't dodge the fact that you were running this company into the ground and helped cause this problem. So, see, some of our Japanese friends thought the only way to get rid of the influence of Renault on Nissan was to get rid of me, he said. And he said the financial troubles that Nissan started in early 2017 is what prompted them to act against him. He's putting himself right in the problems. Like in 2017, you were still a major force in this company. Let's not act like these problems is the day you stepped down as daily running of the company was when these problems happen. These things take years, and whether it be from the financial crisis or whatever, clearly every auto manufacturer had problems there, but they've all recovered, or they had governments bail them out, and you're kind of running the company into the ground a bit more. So let's see, what else can we hear? He describes his condition in jail, which I don't get in. This headline is really great. Ghosn, I did not escape justice. I fled injustice. He goes on to say, I did not escape justice. I fled injustice and persecution and political persecution, Ghosn said during his press conference. He adds that he was left with no other choice and called Japanese hostage judicial system inhumane. Guys, once again, and it's not for the world to judge how the Japanese government runs their judicial system, but if you're willing to accept the yen as payment, guess what? You're willing to accept the legal woes that might come with accepting payment from a Japanese company. So I don't feel sorry for anybody that that is willing to accept money from a company and then acts like their government is a bad company. Let's see. It was get out or die in Japan. Now, granted, they arrested him, and they could only hold him after the arrest for so long, and they rearrested him on a new charge and rearrested him on a new charge. And to maybe us in the United States or elsewhere, that sounds unfair, but that's how it works in this country. So, yes, could his trial wasn't even scheduled to start for another 2 years. So yes, that's in the American eyes, yeah, that seems a little drastic. But once again, not our country, and no, we didn't make the rules over there. Let's see. Oh, this is the one that I find great, and I don't know how he would know this. Carlos Ghosn says his investigation cost Nissan a lot of money. Carlos Ghosn said Nissan lost large amounts of money on the probe that led to his arrest. I'm not sure how he would know this, since how he was fired. Nissan hired a lot of people. I read in Bloomberg. Okay, so he read in Bloomberg recently that Nissan spent over $200 million for the investigation. No ideas, pure speculation. $200 million seems like I don't know how you spend $200 million on this, but once again, I don't know the global corporate world, but that number seems about $290 million way too high. Once again, don't know. And this is part of his ego. How rational is it to spend $200 million? You're going to destroy your company. You're going to destroy your rep. You're going to destroy your image. You're going to divert attention from all your top management. You were part of top management. Once again, he wants to spin this, but he forgets the fact that he was running the company. And he says Nissan shareholders lost even more during this time. The market cap decreased of Nissan since my arrest is more than $10 billion. He said they lost more than $40 million a day. Now, while this is true that the company has lost a lot of money since his arrest, the company was losing money before his arrest when he was running the company. And yes, in the corporate world, when you take down some of your leadership for maybe financial wrongdoings, it does put a bad taste into to the world. And then add on the fact that every publication out there enjoys at this current time, like Nissan's the perfect beating squad. I don't know, they've been for quite a while. Maybe it's due to the cheapness of that Ghosn set this company with, but yeah. And then it just trickles down into when you don't make money, it's hard to spend for advertising and so on, and whatever the global plans are for that. So let's see. He says, I felt like a hostage in a company I served for 17 years. All right, rewind back. You took their money. Yes, you worked for them for 17 years. So you took their money. So when you take their money, you're part of you should take the good and the bad. So when you break their laws, sorry. Let's see. He left Japan to get justice. Now he wants a trial. He's willing to go through with this trial, but the trial's got to be somewhere else. He's never going to get a fair trial in Japan. And now that happens in the States. They will move trials to different locations because they don't feel like they can get a fair deal. But you can't move where he would like is Lebanon or France or somewhere like that, where he knows still the fan club's still high for him. And I'm sorry, you broke that country's law, not just like a little county or a municipality in that country. You broke the country's law, so you need to serve your time there. So I know this is a long one, guys, but there was a lot. 3 hours. There was a lot to this. Let's see if we can get to the last couple things. I'm used to Ghosn. I am used to Mission Impossible. Carlos Ghosn is comparing the challenges of clearing his name to his revival of Nissan, saying he is used to Mission Impossible. That one, and we're going to wrap up on that one. That one, more than anything, says, my ego, I did it once, I can do it again with my own name. It's like, guy, you were caught, your hand was caught in the cookie jar, and you're going to have to face up. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the things below. Like I said, you can go to CNN's business page and read all these top little headlines. It was very interesting. I'm amazed at this guy who just ego all the way. And I had said it years ago when he had to release the American Titan, as he calls it, that you just couldn't let your ego. Oh, I've got to bring out new Nissan trucks or cars that he will never drive or never be a part of, had probably no part of. But his ego, you could sense it back then that his ego was out of control. And I think after being arrested, like his ego's, now that he's in his one of his homelands, he's talking about what a good time he actually, and it was in there, he's actually talked about how he's happy now. He's with his friends and family, and he's okay. But so I know it's long with guys, but let me know what you think in the comments below about old Carlos Ghosn. And you haven't liked and subscribed to our channel yet, why not? We like to talk all things Nissan, and there's nothing better than a Carlos Ghosn gift like this. So once again, comments below, let me know what you think, and I appreciate your time. So from all things Nissan here in my office to wherever you're watching this on YouTube, this has been your Nissan Nation podcast update with Carlos Ghosn and my dog. Peace!